Hello, hello. Grace Spees, Executive Director of Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce. We're here with the Chamber Chat, bringing you a variety of community leaders from both the business realm, the school district, as well as our political candidates. And we will continue through the legislative session to continue to be the voice for small business to government. With us today is Sean Terry. He is Vice President of Centurion American, which is overseeing the Mercer Crossing development here on the west side of Farmers Branch. Sean, why don't you go ahead and start giving us an update?
Oh, Grace, thanks for having me on this morning. It's good. You're doing great things in Farmers Branch and the Chamber, and I know we've had difficult times, and thank you for having me on today. You know, we are corporate headquarters in Farmers Branch, so we have a real love for Farmers Branch, and Mercer Crossing was something that, 5 years ago was a landfill, so to speak. It didn't have, green space, open space, and we took the challenge on that we wanted to move our headquarters here, but also develop it all around. We're basically from 635 to Luna to Valley View, we control all that area. And so, within a matter of about 3 years, we brought almost $40 million in taxable stuff to the city of Farmers Branch. And so moving forward, you've seen us go through, if people's been paying attention, to some rezoning stuff. We had a concept plan when we started. Market dictates a lot of what we do. The house sales have been phenomenal. And so through that time, we had some trigger points that they wanted to make sure when we had X amount of number of houses that we had to have some restaurants open. And so we thought we had enough time in there because of our house number, how many houses we're going to sell a quarter. Well, we exceeded that. So working through the city, we went back and came up with, an amendment to that agreement that allowed us to keep building houses, but at the same time, making sure we had accountability to bring what we said we were going to bring. And so by the end of March 31st, 2021, we're going to have our 100,000 square foot office building will be open. If you've driven by lately, you see it's being built right behind our corporate office here on Valley View. It's going to be a 3 or 4 story, going to be a super nice commercial structure, and we're hoping we can fill it up. COVID's changed a little bit with commercial and with office, but we're positive being in the location. Farmers Branch is so close to 635 and the airports and things that we feel like we're going to be able to attract good tenants there. As well as across 635, back on the south side, there's a big lake that was there. And when we took that over, it was supposed to be dredged to a certain level. Well, we found out it wasn't. So we had a very early rainy season this year. It's also in Dallas County, so it took a lot longer to get our proper permits. But we're going to have that done by the end of this year, 2020. We'll have the lake dredged out, which we're going to have a little boardwalk and walking areas around that. And so that'll be done by the end of this year. Our hike and bike trails that we're building, they're going to be done by sometime January 31st of 2022. We want connectivity in this development. We want to be able to come from Valley View, get through under 635 to get to the other side. We're going to have some restaurants over there. And so by the end of January of early 2022, we should have our amphitheater built. We should have all of our restaurants both open and going. And it's just going to it's an amazing area. If you haven't driven out here, we have amenities throughout already. We have 2 or 3 pools that are there with amenity centers there, a lot of open space, a lot of walking trails. And it really has brought a different product to Farmers Branch because it has typically been older established neighborhoods. Now we're being able to attract some of those millennials. It has the most up-to-date internet connectivity, which has been very important through this time. And so we feel like by early 2022 that we're going to have pretty much everything done that meet all of our commitments here out in our site at Mercer Crossing, as we call it.
That's awesome. It really is beautiful. And not being from the Metroplex, when I first moved here from Florida, I had friends up in the Little Elm area and I'd been out to Allen area. And I remember I had moved to Addison and I stumbled upon the Big Lots here, but that was, my only impression of Farmers Branch was just kind of that area that borders Addison. And so to see this west side, and I've even had people from my church who I brought out here to, look at the homes. They're like, whoa, you wouldn't know that this is Farmers Branch. Really, you guys have added some beautiful quality of homes to the mix. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That's our forte is, single family. We've gotten the restaurant business, hotel business, and when we come in, first of all, we have to live on this property, so to speak. Our corporate headquarters are here. So we want to make sure we brought a nice product, and hopefully we're making Farmers Branch proud.
So what kinds of restaurants will be coming into the boardwalk area?
So we're going to have Primo's, which is a brand that we brought back. It was kind of a trendy place in Dallas for a long time. It kind of lost its luster a little bit. So Merdad bought that brand. So we rebranded that. So we're going to have a Primo's, which is a Tex-Mex type restaurants. And then we're going to have Safirco or one of our other concepts. We're still deciding what that's going to be. We're working with some of the city staff to see what they think. And actually, we're working with our neighbors out here. We're doing surveys to see what would they like to see there. We have Safirco, which is an Italian pizza kind of deal. We have Fine China, which is more of higher end kind of Chinese food type of stuff like that. And so we're trying to see what concept's going to work best there. We have a concept called Scout that's in our hotel that's more of kind of a high-end sports bar / burger joint. So we're really working what that second concept's going to be, but we're going to have 2 opened within the next 12 or 14 months that we'll have up and actually functioning so people can actually go out there and eat. And what's great about us is we control those properties, so people have to eat. And so if we don't see a trend of people coming and liking the burger joint, we can rebrand that to something else and really find what the residents want. Because if they have buy-in, they'll come and spend time there and spend money there.
That makes sense. So, obviously a lot of industries have been hit hard by COVID, but, it seems that building development construction hasn't really slowed down. And this building, that's behind your current headquarters, it seems to be, popping up pretty quickly. Talk about what you guys have done, as a company to get through COVID, to support your employees. Just share with us a little bit about the process that you guys have gone through the last 6 months.
Well, we've got, you have to be sympathetic, and we have great employees and we want to keep them. And so adaptability has probably been the biggest deal. We're very hands-on at our company. We're a very family-oriented company where people interact with each other, and we thrive on coming to work. I couldn't work out of the house every day. I just couldn't. But our account managers, when they have kids that were out of school, you have to be sympathetic to that. So we just kind of sat down with each employee and looked at what their situation was. We actually closed the offices for maybe 3 weeks because we had some COVID cases like everybody did. Dallas County has been very, very tough on their restrictions. And so we actually closed the office down, except for 3 or 4 of us that needed to be here to make sure the lights were on and to keep things running internally. And so we got with each of our employees, and we knew the ones that had kids that had to start homeschooling or whatever they might have to do. And so we allowed them to adapt their hours. Some of them may work all night, and they know what they have to do. And that's a great thing. People that come to, we always say, when you come here, you never get to leave. People stay here. We have employees that's been here a long time. And so they know what they have to do to get through their daily jobs. And so some people, you might get phone calls at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning sending emails because they were tutoring their kids during the day. And so adaptability has probably been the biggest thing, is using common sense to know it's not your typical work environment. The mental aspect of it, I know when my kids were young, just trying to hurry up to get to a sporting event, trying to work late and get to their stuff was mental enough. Now you think about, you're at home all day long with your kids, trying to be a teacher, trying to keep your work career going, trying to put food on the table. Some of their spouses may not work for us, so they may be off or furloughed. And so really just adaptability and working each individual situation out. And I think we did a really good job. Merdad Moyetti, our owner of the company, very family first. And so that's kind of been our motto. You still got to get your job done at the end of the day, but being able to, if you have to do it at midnight or if you have to do it early in the morning, working around their schedules.
So is that kind of your general management approach, a little bit hands off and just empower people to do what works for them? Is that, or, have you traditionally been hands on and this has caused a shift in you as a leader?
A shift in me a leader, because I'm usually a, do it all myself kind of guy. And so, but my job being the vice president of working with cities and my role changed a bunch too, because, I just couldn't jump in the car and go to the city of Dallas and go meet somebody to work a deal out. I had to learn how to use Zoom. I didn't know what Zoom was before this started. And things like we're doing here where you can't be in person. So we had to adapt to being able to do things through Skype and that stuff. And so I really had to delegate some of my stuff that I used to be able to do because I couldn't walk down the hall to get XYZ signed off on right quick. I had to send it electronically. And so I think it's made us a more efficient company. I think it really has. I think I'm going to call every week with the Denton County judges and Denton County representatives and Collin County. And I think you hear that all over. People, had to learn how to use Zoom. And a lot of cities adapted differently. Some just shut down. It was hard to get stuff done. But I think it's taught all of us how to be more efficient. And they're seeing that from, we had State Farm and Toyota on the lines with us sometimes. And they're now thinking, well, we don't really need all this office space. Our people are efficient from home. Some people work great from home. Some people don't. But if they can cut half their office space down, maybe pay their employees a little more, they may not need that much commercial. So I think that's where your trend's going to come looking is what is office going to be in the future?
Yeah, that's obviously a huge conversation is, some people, companies, have found, wow, this is actually efficient. It works. Employee morale seems to be just fine. And so, yeah, it will be a big question what the next, not just year or two until we get out of COVID, but what this does to, the landscape of business for the next 5-10 years and perhaps indefinitely. I heard some cool stories about one of your other properties, the Statler Hotel downtown. Tell us what you guys did there to support the community.
Well, Statler was the original Hilton back in the 50s, 53. Then it closed down. We bought it, brought it back to life. It's been a great asset for Dallas. And, we're, again, about family, about how can we help each other. Murdad really believes in that pay it forward attitude. How can we help somebody else be successful or succeed? And it kind of started with, I live in Salina, and one of our local two ladies in town started RVs for MDs. And it was a deal to where doctors and nurses, when this first started, nobody knew what was going to happen. They really didn't. COVID was a new word for everybody. How's it going to affect people? And so I'm sitting in my driveway on a Thursday. RVs for MDs started, and one of our local judges' wives started it. And they reached out to me and they said, hey, do you have an RV they can use? We need to place what they were doing, placing doctors and nurses so they didn't go home. They didn't know how contagious this was to go home to their families to infect them. They wanted a place to stay, so to speak. They weren't infected by the COVID, but they had been exposed to it and they didn't want to go home so they could go to work every day. Our frontline workers, first responders too. And so I was sitting in the driveway and he called me and I'm thinking, our hotel business went way down. I mean, as soon as this hit, it stopped. We were at 98% capacity. We went to about 5%. So I called Murdad up and I said, Murdad, can we do something good and let's house nurses, doctors, and first responders at the hotel? So we opened up 3 floors. I got with Courtney Morrow, our marketing director. We started our own website. We got with the Hilton representatives as well as our leadership down there. And we started Centurion Cares, an email. It got overloaded the first 48 hours once we put it out there. We had probably over 250, 300 doctors and nurses that they would stay in our hotel in between their shifts. We wasn't charging them anything. Then we had our restaurant component. It wasn't doing any business at that point. So we started feeding them 3 meals free a day. And so we came up with, putting them in a box, put it in the front of their door so they didn't have to have any interaction with anybody. And they could go to work and have a hot meal and take it with them. And so Fox and Friends picked up on this nationwide, and they called us and said, we would love to have you on. So I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we did it, which was amazing. You're live on national TV doing it from my iPad in my house in my office. And so it really gave good exposure to Farmers Branch because, corporate headquarters is in Farmers Branch, Centurion American. They're doing these great things for the Statler. And so it really was rewarding for us as a company. Developers sometimes get looked at in a bad light. If you really look at it, developers help build cities. Murdad has the biggest heart that will help anybody out. And it cost us a lot of money to do that for about a 3-month period. But the rewards we got out of that, the emails and the phone calls, and people felt like you saved our life, which we really didn't. But at a time like that, when mass chaos, so to speak, is going on, if you can bring some good to people that are really helping save our lives, it really made us feel good. And it really, our Statler employees were great. Then we had the riots down there, and some of the businesses around us got really tore up. We took all of our team down there to Guns N' Roses, which is a little shop down there. All of her glass was busted out. Within an hour, we had her shop back done, cleaned up, and boarded up so she could get back to work. Wow. And so that's what we want to be. Talking about community partners, it's not just Farmers Branch, but when we go anywhere, Farmers Branch is our brand because this is where our corporate office is. And I think the leadership here understands that. Your mayor and them understand that. We work hard with them to make sure we're building them a good product, but also representing Farmers Branch in a way that everybody's proud of. And the Statler was just one great example of how we did that.
That's awesome. I think, it really speaks to a heart. I don't think, you guys set out on that mission to be on Fox and Friends and national news, but I think, the media is so overloaded with the negativity that when they capture those positive stories and when people just do things out of the kindness of their heart for the community, it definitely, it shows.
Yeah.
Evident.
And we weren't looking for that exposure, but what was cool for me on a personal level, I went to A&M, played football at A&M, and the Texas A&M system picked that story up and they sent it viral throughout all the Lettermans. And so to me personally, it was cool because I had my A&M deal in the background at my house and all friends that I haven't talked to in 20 years. Hey man, it's cool seeing you on there. And it was really neat connecting that way. And and that's one thing I think we don't do very well of at Centurion is we don't really publicize all the cool things we do. And again, we don't do it because we want the exposure, but I think it goes back to the character of Merdad. Whenever we go into a city, a lot of cities want us there. And this was just one example of how we were able to step up and play a little part in hopefully making some people's lives a little easier through that time.
Awesome. Let's switch gears and let's keep talking a little bit more about leadership.
Okay.
What advice would you give to other managers, employers, people who are in a leadership capacity at any level of management within their company? What kind of advice would you give them right now through the end of the year and as we continue to navigate this uncertainty?
I think flexibility and compassion. I get to see two different sides. I'm also the mayor in Salina and I work for a huge corporation. And so I had to deal with my citizens in Salina. And what was weird is the first couple of weeks of this, I was getting phone calls from people going, hey, is it okay if I take my kid out walking in a stroller? Am I going to get arrested for going outside? Because the governor's orders were so confusing. So I started my own Facebook Live, and I think you're doing a great job with this, talking about what changed every day and what people can do and having people take ownership. I think as a leader, you need your employees to take ownership in their jobs and their lives. And I think that comes from the top of being flexible and compassionate. We all don't know what people are going through at home. People have different lives. This has made it worse. Again, is their other spouse not getting any money? Are they behind on their mortgage? Really listen to their needs and finding a way to be compassionate about that and being flexible. Again, like what we did, making sure that they know they have a job. We were lucky we didn't lay anybody off. We were able to keep everything going, but also being flexible to where, hey, if you have to come in on a Saturday so your other spouse can watch the kids while you work and catch up, that's okay. And I think now more than ever, we have to really listen more than we talk to our employees. We have to listen to what their needs are because, some people, if you saw with they were making more money staying at home than they were going to work in certain categories of laborers. A friend of mine owns an event company. They've been shut down for 6 months, but he can't even get his employees to come back right now because they were making more money off of the CARES Act and things like that instead of going to work. So I think you got to value your employees. You found out the ones, I think it really let you find out the ones that were efficient and the ones that weren't. And so it was an education process too, not just throwing them to the wolves, but bringing them in and saying, hey, you can improve here. You're valuable to us. But I think flexibility and compassion is probably the two biggest things as a leader that they can really have because we get so caught up in the day-to-day rat race, going from meeting to meeting to meeting. And really, this has made all of us focus on our families and our lives and really made us focus on what's important. But you have to make money. You have to make a living. But compassion and flexibility, I think, are the two biggest keys that any leader can remember.
Yeah, I agree. And it sounds like, a lot of people went through these same, kind of hurdles as well. How do you, and I think that's been the struggle with allowing people to work remotely is how do you manage it? And some people want to micromanagement and other people you can empower. And so I think, like you said, it really kind of brought out the efficiencies or inefficiencies in the system. And it's really, I think, challenged us as managers, to really look at how we, encourage, empower people, listening to their needs and valuing them in the way that they need to be valued.
And I think you have to use the technology that's available today. We've had so much of this stuff has been there, but again, teaching an old dog new tricks kind of scenario. You're so used to doing it one way. And so when I would, like today, I'm not going to have to drive to McKinney to have a meeting at 11. I'm going to be able to have that meeting here. So it saves me 2 hours. 30-minute meeting that would have been up there 30 minutes, 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back. It makes you more efficient, but using the technology that we have today makes a lot better. And I think we've done a good job at that. And I see across the board from cities to everybody else really coming into the technology age. We've already had it in place. We just didn't want to step out of that comfort zone and use it. Now we've been forced to use it.
Now I have a kind of sending us a slightly different direction.
Okay.
How do you specifically, collaborate with other people? What is your collaborative kind of style? Right, you guys are a big developer. How do you, enter these new markets? You guys have all these different business components. What has allowed you to really understand that from the visionary component and then to implementation when you're building out a community within a city?
We're very blessed to be in a North Texas area that's very resilient to the market. We're Collin County, Dallas County, Denton County, all the fastest growing counties probably in the state of Texas and maybe the country. And so for us, our name recognition has been so good. We get sought after about every city to come in. We have great relationships with brokers. We look at the school district a lot. People want to go where it's a safe community and where there are good schools. And, right now in Dallas, with all the stuff that's been going on downtown, people are looking to move out a little bit. And Dallas is working on changing that culture. Dallas is a great place. But our builders drive a lot of that too. We have great relationships with the top builders in the country: D.R. Horton, Lenara, Beazer, Pulte, and M.I. Homes. And so they help dictate that too. What we like to do is we like to go into a city that we can build a relationship with their leadership. Time is money. One city may take 2 years to get everything across the finish line, or another city you might do that in 9 months. So we really start focusing on how fast can we get our product on the ground. We go in and listen to the city, what they want, but we like to go in and buy a piece of property and then look, see if we can buy stuff next to it to add on to it. Because we would like to come in with 4 or 5 different builders that want to be in that community. And so a lot of it, and we're very lucky too that most things north have great school districts. And that's where the growth's going from here to the north. And then now it's going to the east. But really we look at the school districts, how safe is the community, and then our builders drive that. And trust me, our brokers knock on our door every day with new deals. And Merdad's get creative. Cities, too, get creative with using PID and TERS, whatever's in their toolbox, to help spark that growth. And so, but I think when we're looking right now, you can pick any city around here, and there's not a bad city to go to in North Texas.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel like, as a chamber, right, like you were saying, you've got brokers knocking on your door every day. We have people with chamber solutions knocking on our door every day. There's a lot to navigate. Okay, what is going to be best for this community? What's going to be best for our chamber, for our members? It's a lot to navigate when you're at a higher level of leadership. Yeah,
and even now, we've got some deals like we had here to where we're supposed to build 200,000 square feet of office space. Some cities realize we need to pause and see what's going to happen. Other cities go, nope, we have a deal. You need to go build it now. Not seeing the bigger picture that you don't want me to build 200,000 square feet of an office that's going to sit there and do nothing. One thing we're unique about is we have such good partnerships with so many different companies that we can typically fill up a building with just people that do business with us. And so that makes us a little bit unique, is that we can bring our following with us when we do build office. So that helps us some.
Well, that's good, because I know that is, again, a big looming question mark for the months and even years to come is, what is residential or
commercial and office. Yeah.
Commercial real estate look like. It's kind of an uncertain industry. So, we're just about time's up. Any last thoughts, comments, things you want to share with the Farmers Branch community, the chamber as a whole? Floor is yours.
Well, Grace, I would say, you're doing a great job running the chamber. And I think people now more than ever need to get involved in their local chambers, because you're cultivating the relationships with city officials. Now it's harder than ever to get in front of those city officials. But if they can be part of the chamber to where you have those functions, we're going to get out of COVID at some point. It's not going to go away, but we have to live with it. I'm hoping any day the governor does like Florida and says, we're no mask, we're opening up, because people have to take ownership in their lives. And I appreciate you getting us on here and you're bringing the message of what's happening in Farmers Branch. But I would encourage people to really join your chamber and really get involved, because it would help their business. But also it's so satisfying because you do a lot of good work too, helping people out in times. And the food banks and things like that. So keep up the good work. I think people need to think outside the box, because I think we're going to move towards more people working out of the house, which means they need more entertainment. They need more ways to connect with people, and they need more places to eat. So that's kind of our focus is you got to have cool places for them to hang out, to eat, because they can't sit at the house all day and work. Little shops they can go in and work, but have an outlet like the Chamber, which really has a voice to build a portfolio, so they have a networking group, that they have Zoom calls with 40 or 50 people like y'all have and things like that. So keep up the good work. People need to keep mentally knowing that, this is America. This is Texas, the greatest state to be in. And it really is time that we take ownership in what we do, and we got to start living again. Our kids deserve it, and our mental aspect deserves it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sean, and appreciate all your support, all you guys do for our chamber and for our community.
All right. Thanks, Grace. Talk to you later.
Have a good one. And thank you all for joining us for the Farmers Branch Chamber Chat, episode 5, featuring Mercer Crossing and Centurion American. We will be continuing both our virtual and in-person events. So be sure to follow us on our website, farmersbranchchamber.org, or on Facebook to get all the latest updates. Have a great day.